Hey guys, I'm live. How you guys doing? So I'm in my big chair again, doing. I want to go live here. I figured something out. I want to just let you guys know what I figured out. I don't talk about Joe Satriani that much, but he was great. Is great. um, and I love his contributions to music theory. That's rare for a rocker to do. But first, let me explain what I figured out. Joe has a theory, and I think he's right, that a human can only understand 11 notes at a time out of 12 notes. They can only, once you play 12 notes, you've just gone over, you just went over everybody's pay grade. Nobody can get all 12 notes that are in music all at once in their head and follow them all. But one note missing, making 11 notes, people can do. What does that mean for modulations and all that pitch axis idea? Well, if I start in a key, let's say D, and I say I play D Ionian mode, which is also D major scale, and then I play D Phrygian mode. Phrygian mode is 4 flats. D Phrygian is 4 flats from D Ionian. So when you play D Ionian and then play Phrygian mode, and if you want to hear all those notes at once, you have the 7 notes of D Ionian plus the 4 notes that are flat from of that from the D Phrygian, and 7 plus 4 is 11. So you can keep track of all those notes in a modulation up to a major third, and including all the modulations in between. So in other words, you could start with D major and go to D mixolydian. That'd be 8 notes. You could, if you include both those, you can go D Ionian to D Dorian. That'd be 2 flats. So that'd make 8 notes, because 7 plus 2, no, 9 notes, because 7 plus 2 is 9. You could go D Ionian to D Aeolian, and that would be 10 notes, because Aeolian is 3 flats from Ionian, and that 7 plus 3 is 10. And then, of course, like I said, if you go from D Ionian to D Phrygian and want to hear all that at once, you have the 7 notes of D Ionian, and then plus the 4 flats that you get with D Phrygian, which gives you 7 plus 4, which is 11 notes. So a person can handle all that. It's when you go, let's say, from D major to E flat major. Now you've done a modulation up a half step, and up a half step is 5 flats from the original scale. So D Ionian to E flat Ionian would be 7 plus 5, which is 12, all 12 notes. And a person can't handle that all at once. You can't handle a half step diatonic modulation and all the notes therein all at once. And the tritone is the same thing. You can't handle a tritone modulation, because this also gives you all notes, all 12 notes. If I go from D major to A flat major, that's a tritone modulation, and that would be all 12 notes as well. And you can't hear all those notes, but 11 notes you can hear. And you can hear everything but one of them. And I think that's what I realized is I always wondered, why did Joe Satriani call his third EP or third album Dreaming Number 11? That's the name of his little EP that came right after Surfing with the Alien. And why did he call it Dreaming Number 11? Geez, what a weird name. But there's a reason to it. I knew there was, or he wouldn't have done it. I believe it's not sharp 11. That would be like totally out of context. And how could one dream of an interval in music? LOL. Tritone plus an octave, sharp 11. But no, dreaming number 11. I think he's referring to, hi Joe, if you're there, if you're watching, of dreaming of music, and number 11 meaning the 11 notes that one can think of at one time. So he's talking about dreaming about music. He's dreaming of the 11 notes that you can hear at once as a human. I think that's what he meant. And it always bothers me when I can't figure something out for years, and what the heck does that mean? But I think that's what he meant. He's talking about dreaming about music in terms of the 11 notes that a person can understand and keep track of at once. I think that's a cool title, dude. I wish I'd have thought of that. It's cool. Dreaming number 11. I'm dreaming of the 11 notes. I think that's what he meant. I could be wrong, but that's my feeling. But I want to go on about Joe's theoretical contributions and all that. Yes, he did. His high school music teacher was Bill Westcott, who taught Joe pitch axis theory, and Joe gave it to us by explaining it to us, making it known, and then using it in his music. It's just any one pitch, but then every mode on that pitch is okay to play. So let's say, like in the tapping section of the tapping rubato section, which is also kind of a guitar a cappella. That means at choir, by the way. The choir style, meaning like a choir when you don't have any instrument accompanying you. He does a pitch axis in A, tapping on the fifth string, and he goes D, he goes A Dorian, then he goes A Lydian, then he goes A Dorian, and then he goes then he does A Aeolian, and then A Lydian. I think he does that. Yeah. Then he goes back, then he repeats the A Lydian, then the A Dorian, then the A Aeolian. And then he does A Lydian. Then he does, let me get this straight in my head here. Then he does a tapping thing that's kind of a chromatic thing. It's not just for fun effect. Oh, maybe he did that already in this analysis. In fact, I think he did. He did after he did the A Dorian. He does that tapping thing, just a chromatic thing. That's not really in any one scale. And then he does. Then he goes after the A Lydian. He goes back to A Aeolian. Then he goes to A harmonic minor, which technically could be A harmonic major because the third's not in there. But I'm going to call it A harmonic minor. And then he does a back and forth thing between A mixolydian and A Lydian, ending on A mixolydian, and then goes back into the song. So in other words, all the modes of A are okay to play. That's a rhyme, by the way. And that's how he used it in Sash Boogie, which I think that's a really cool idea. Pitch axis. He does it in Out of This Earth, where he goes from E Lydian to E Aeolian to E Lydian to E mixolydian, back and forth, and then repeat. It's really cool. I like that, And he also, Joe also taught us. He's just such an educational experience just to get to know Joe's content. You just can't help but learn something unless you're God. But he just did cool things, He did these weird arpeggios, which are cool. They involve all 6 strings and a lot of movement in fifths. There's 5 forms of them. He talks about it in Guitar Secrets, published by Guitar for the Practicing Musician. It's a little book you can get. He plays on the low 6th string, he plays a note, and then he plays a fifth above that and a fifth above that on the 5th and 4th strings, respectively. Then he goes up to the 3rd string and plays either a minor 10th, major 10th, or major 11th. I mean, minor 10th, which is a minor 3rd in an octave, or major 10th, which is a major 3rd in an octave, or major 11th, which is a 4th in an octave. And then from there, either one of those 3 notes play also fifths on top of that. So from the minor 3rd, minor 10th, play, I'm going to call it minor 3rd. It's just a minor 3rd, but up an octave on the 3rd string, then go up 2 fifths from there. So you go the minor 3rd, minor 7th, and then minor, and then perfect 4th. That can be that can imply Aeolian mode on the original key on the very lowest 6th string note, or Dorian mode on that very lowest 6th string note. And then on the major 3rd version, it's the three notes on the 6th, 5th, and 4th strings again in fifths, and then up to the major 3rd, go up 2 fifths from there. So you get a major 3rd, a major 7th, and an augmented 4th. That implies a Lydian mode. And then if you go up, then you play if you take the 3 notes on the 6th, 4th, 5th, and 4th strings, and then go up a perfect 4th on the 3rd string, and then play 2 fifths above that, you get the 4th, 4th root, or a 1 tonic, and then 5th. So what you get out of that is a sus4, sus2 arpeggio, which can be in just about anything. It can be It can be Mixolydian, it can be Dorian, it can be Aeolian, it can be Ionian. Can't be Phrygian because that has a flat 2. It can't be Lydian because that has a sharp 4. So it can be, and it can't be Locrian because that also has a flat. Locrian also has a flat, not only a flat 2nd but a flat 5th. So you can do it on. It can be in Ionian mode, Mixolydian mode, Dorian mode, or Aeolian mode. Those 4 modes. And then there's a couple other patterns where he does weird stuff. One of them implies a Mixolydian thing, and one of them implies a Phrygian dominant thing, if you can believe that. But that's cool, the way he did things. And he played linearly a lot on one string. He would just play on one string a lot of the time. There's, nothing wrong with that. People play in position all the time. Well, why not play everything on? And he even said he thinks linear. He thinks linear. He thinks scale scale intervals on a single string is kind of how he thinks, rather than a 3-note per string pattern memorized up and down the fretboard. He kind of thought linearly, or thinks linearly. Is kind of cool. It's not the only way to think, but it's cool to be able to think that way. It's good to know it both. It's good to know your positions, 3 notes per string positions, or whatever, and also knowing it on one string. It's good to know both. And lately I've been thinking that it's also good to know every note on the neck, to know what note you're playing, because that's a good thing too. It comes in handy, but that's not something to do with Joe. It's just something I mentioned. But yeah, Joe did cool stuff. Anything else that strikes my brain here? Oh, and Joe had this sound page on Guitar Player magazine or Guitar World, one of the two, in the late 80s, where he called it Power Cosmic, COSMIC, where he did all arpeggios, like I just told you, 6-string weird arpeggios. And it was on a sound page. They used to send you a magazine with a plastic record you could put on the record player. Yes, I owned a record player in the 80s, and you could play it. It wouldn't even be something on an album. There were some really cool things. Richie Costin did a sound page. He actually talked and said, "Welcome to my sound page," and then just starts going off like, "I'm going to quit guitar." I've got a shred to hear. But Joe's was called Power Cosmic, and I've never heard him produce that. Never heard it again. Lost the sound page, or threw it away, one of the two, because I smashed all my things in 1995. I just got rid of everything. I want to start all over. It's like, screw you, Dad. But anyway, that's why I don't have all the 80s magazines still. I just smashed them all, trashed them all, thrashed them all. But hey, that was me at the time, that was just me at the time. But yeah, Joe's song Power Cosmic, I still have it in my brain a little. I can kind of recreate it, but it's like, even with my brain, I don't remember all of it. And it's like, I wish I could hear that again, just one time even. But I can't, because I threw the sound page away, and that was 35 or so years ago that I heard it. Lucky I have the brain I have, because I can actually remember a lot of it. I kind of know what and I have ideas I play from it. He kind of alluded to it on the song called Mystical Potato Head Groove thing, where he does it, but not as well and not as to the extent as on Power Cosmic. That was really cool. Is that what I said? The Mystic Potato Head Groove thing, something like that, where he brings that out. So anything else Joe did that I think is cool? I don't want to miss anything. He was cool. Is cool. Let me think. I don't want to miss anything. He taught playing in weird modes. Like, he would play in Dorian sharp 4 mode sometimes, which is the 4th mode of harmonic minor. It's a Dorian with a raised 4. It's not that hard to conceptualize. He does it in a song called Ice 9. Ice 9 is in C sharp Dorian, but then he goes up to, for the solo, he goes up a whole step to E flat Dorian, or you could call it D sharp, but I'll call it E flat Dorian, which is actually a whole step. It's a diminished third if you call it C to E, but basically it's a whole step up from C sharp Dorian to E flat Dorian. But instead of playing E flat Dorian, he plays E flat Dorian sharp 4, which is really intriguing and cool. And then he goes down to B Dorian and plays some cool bluesy stuff. And then he goes back to C sharp Dorian for the end of the solo to play some whammy stuff and weird stuff, backward stuff, played backwards and with really cool whammy bar down the throat, lizard down the throat technique. So when you slide up while using the whammy bar to go down, or slide down while using the whammy bar to go up, so the pitch stays kind of static, but it sounds like a lizard going down your throat. So that's cool. I like that stuff. Anything else? I don't want to do Joe injustice. So let me think. Anyway, I love you guys. Peace, love, and rock and roll.